All right, what up, guys? This is Dwilly here. We're on Twitch, and I'm going to be going over my song ADD. How's the video quality for you guys in the chat? Sick. Swag. All right, cool. So yeah, I just thought it'd be a cool idea to break down my song for you guys. I've had a lot of requests to kind of go over this song specifically. I'm going to run it down and then just go through everything for you guys. And if there's anything specifically you guys want to hear, just run it up in the comments. I will pull apart literally anything that's in this. All right, so if you guys aren't familiar with this song, I'm going to play a little bit of it just so you guys can familiarize yourself. Here we go.
Hey, baby, what I'm supposed to say, baby? Say, baby, if I go in my hey, baby, don't blame me, blame my fucking hey, baby, hey, baby.
All right, I see a lot of you guys want to know what the lead is, so I'm gonna dive right into that, and then we can take everything from the beginning. So the lead, let's go right here in synth pad. The drop lead is, unsurprisingly, Serum. Good old fucking Serum. And the patch, hopefully my computer doesn't like explode from opening this. The patch is Woodwind Flute 2. And there's a couple things that I've modified in this patch. The original patch, I think, is like a legato sounding flute lead that is supposed to be like held out. And it still has that sustain, but basically what I did is I modified the envelope and gave it a very sharp decay, just so it has that front end bite and it has that stabby sound. So yeah, basically what you're hearing is like the front end of this preset, and the tail is pretty much just manipulated with this chain right here. So basically here's without the chain. Here's with the chain down here. You knew it? Yeah, of course. I don't even use Serum that much anymore, but during the time, this was my shit. All right, so the first thing we have in this chain, I'm gonna turn off all this other stuff so you guys can see what's going on. So I have a Serum effects module as an audio effect, and we have this Formant 1 filter. And I'm pretty sure I automated something. Let's see if I did. Oh, no, I didn't. So I left it on this Formant. It gives it, I don't know, it gives it like that low, throaty, like growl. And it just changes the timbre so easily. So that's pretty much all that's doing right there. Here's an AB, here's without. Here's with. And then we have some saturation. The Valhalla Room gives it like a nice space. That actually gives it like some more tail. Because as you can see, these MIDI notes in the lead are pretty short. We don't have any sustained notes here. It's all just quick little notes. Let's see, what did I do here? I turned the width to mono in this utility plugin. Compressed the fook out of it. Got some EQ going on right here. Nothing crazy. A little bit of the high shelf or the high notch. This multi-band, I like to use the FabFilter MB to just like pretty much tame all of the frequencies going on here. Makes it sound really crisp and fresh. Brick wall limiter. And of course, the last thing is the volume shaper to the kick. So the kick MIDI is being sent into this lead, and the kick MIDI is also being sent to a call. I'll show you guys like my process for how I send kick MIDI out. There's a couple different ways to do it, but this is the way I do it. So yeah, that's the lead. And there's one more thing that I'm doing. I'm basically doing, so I do this with a different technique these days. I actually automate the utility plugin with the mute enacted or enabled. So back during this time, I was automating the speaker on and off. And I don't do that anymore just for exporting purposes. It kind of gets all funky when you're exporting stuff. So that's why I use the utility plugin. But anyway, what I'm doing is I'm choking this reverb tail by automating the speaker on and off, if you guys can see that. The Lost Boy has a question. What was the reasoning behind making it mono? I just felt that it fit in the mix better as mono because there was so much going on the sides. I don't know. There's just certain things about making things mono where they translate better to speaker systems. It would just sit better in mono. So here's what the speaker on and off is doing. And you can see right here all the dips that I have in the automation. Out. So here's a good example of it happening right here. You can hear everything cutting out right here. And that's what's giving this song like so much pump, is because there's these little moments throughout the drop where there's complete silence. And the complete silence is pretty much giving that effect. Yeah, I like to say, like, sometimes your strongest weapon in a song is silence. And to completely like utilize that, just I think the best way to do it is just, you know, make sure you're muting all your tails. And I think that's like a stylistic thing for that time, because I made this song back in 2017 and it ended up coming out in 2018. I can definitely see like this style, and like obviously in EDM continues to exist, but yeah, it's a very stylistic thing. So anyway, yeah, that's what's going on with the lead. Oh yeah, I'm down to talk about drums. So I have all my drums in a drum rack, like my main drum kit, as you can see here on drums. So right here, I have basically I've sample dropped all of my favorite sounds into Ableton's drum rack. And I exported this kit. Let me see what kick this is. Yeah, so I can't remember the source of this kick. I found it at some point and along the road in my sample folder and just ended up tweaking it. Yeah, so the kick is pretty much just, you hear a lot of top end at the forefront, and the way to do that is by adding what it's called top kicks. So what I did was just chop off the high frequencies of literally any kind of transient, like a snare or a hi-hat or maybe even another kick. And what you do is you layer that with a low end kick. It just adds, you know, crunch to the top end and sparkle. And I wish I could show you guys kind of like each layer, but I've obviously already exported this kick into one. The snare. So I did a remix a while back for Mickey Valen. He did a song called Wild Card with Felly. And I basically exported that snare and did a couple more, I processed it. Actually, no, I didn't process it at all. Wait, is there automation going on in the reverb? No, there's not. Okay, so this was basically all I did with this snare is I applied Valhalla Room with the snare, and I basically printed the reverb. And here, let me just do it really quick. I feel like, so for instance, if you get a snare and you want that like tail, that like room tail, I'm gonna grab a snare right here and show you guys. Oh, I did it. So here's a snare right here, pretty dry, no tail. The way that I made the ADD snare is I grabbed Valhalla Room, and I may have set the decay probably around here, like 2 seconds, maybe 1.5 seconds. And what I did was I froze only the tail. I'm just gonna print it right here on the bottom channel. As you can see, I have the reverb tail right here. And notice that the tail actually has somewhat of a delay. So what I like to do is I like to chop off that attack right there and have the sample start right where it starts to crest in volume. And I usually just drag that sample here. So together, group these. We don't need that anymore because we already printed the reverb. So we have that tail. The next thing you want to do is if you go inside this reverb clip with the audio, I'm down here, guys, in the audio clip of the reverb. You can actually shorten this tail with the warp markers like that. You guys following me? Yeah, resampling, that's the shit. So basically all I did was I clicked on this reverb tail down here that I printed, and I'm inside the parameters for the clip. And what I did was I dragged I made a warp marker at the very end of this tail and scooted the audio forward. And what that's going to do is give the effect of the reverb being choked. So then, I mean, at that point, you can just even freeze this whole thing together. And there you go. And I know that's not like a perfect representation of the snare, but that's pretty much like how I went about processing it. And you can apply, that goes for like anything. I'm a big fan of just printing things to audio because with audio, it's just so much easier to manipulate. Yeah, let's talk about like the musical elements of the song, like the pads. I'm gonna start it from the top so you guys can kind of hear everything that's going on.
I'm falling off track for you, and it's tearing my heart in two. 'Cause I'm always searching for better things, for better things. I'm falling off track for you, and there's a million reasons to. I don't need more time to choose, but I'm so fucking ADD. What I'm supposed to say, baby, if I go in my A, baby, don't blame me, blame my fucking ADD.
So I see some of you guys lighting up the comments, talking about what I'm using specifically. I'm not using any analog synths in this tune. That was like before the days of me actually using like analog hardware. I was pretty much only in the box using, you know, your go-tos, Massive, Serum, FM8 even. But another staple of my production is just Ableton Sampler. And I'm going to get into that right now with these intro pads. So you're hearing right here, you're hearing several layers going on. The first one is I called it Silly Dwilly Rhodes pad. And that's actually literally just a sample of somebody's voice. So I have this opened right here. You can see that this is in the sampler, just a common sample, re-triggered with the chords. And if you guys want to hear that original sample, I can actually find that. Let me find that sample. That sound. Yeah, okay, so here's the original sample. I don't know if you guys are getting that audio, but so basically what you're hearing there is I literally just like, I probably used my laptop mic. I just whistled into the mic and I threw that into Ableton Sampler. And the trick is to make sure that your whistle is in tune with the song, or at least in tune with itself, and it's not drifting, because every note that you cue up with that sampler is basically gonna show whatever original source audio you recorded. And what you can do is you can cheat. You can, you know, record a little whistle, maybe a 3-second loop, and then melodyne it, print it, then throw it into the sampler. But yeah, basically what you're hearing right now is a little whistle. And obviously the processing goes a long way with this too. There's also some vinyl dirt layered here on the bottom, which is just giving it that crunch aspect. The filtering, the EQ is doing a lot. It's taking out a good majority of the high end, and it's really just focusing on those like mid lows. Here's the second layer. I actually didn't, Daniel, I actually did not melodyne that whistle. I think I just played it in and it happened to be on pitch, but usually I will melodyne audio before I throw it into sampler just to make sure. But even if the source audio is a little bit out of tune, the imperfections like that is what's gonna make your song feel so much more human. So don't even worry about if, you know, things are not completely on the line as far as tune. And that's my rule of thumb these days is the reason why I got away from using digital in the box soft synths like Serum and Massive is because they were just too perfect, and it was hard to manipulate them in a way that if I had them in a song, it would sound organic and natural and fuzzy. And I mean, I still use them for staple sounds. Like I'll use them for like bass or like maybe little plucks. But these days I'm working with mainly analog gear. The second sound in this patch is a Rhodes pad. Again, it's literally the same one actually, but it has a little distortion on it. I think it's coming from, yep, same thing. It's just coming from Decapitator. So together, you can see the MIDI notes. Cool, and then the third sound, if we layer this in, is the whistle. Okay, and this is a different source audio. Let's go ahead and play this so you guys can hear what's going on. So this guy's right here, this flute. What you're hearing here. We're gonna play the source audio of that. Here it goes. There it is. Pretty low right now. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but. Oh, and I know what that is. I know what that is now. This was 4 years ago when I recorded this. So, that's basically the sound when you blow into an empty bottle, like a soda bottle or a beer bottle. If you blow into that with all the liquid gone, that's the sound it gets. It gives it like that tonal resonance. I mean, that's some nerd shit. Like that's definitely so unnecessary, but I did it and ended up working. And as you can see, it's being sent pretty heavily to send A and send B. Send A is Echo Boy. And I have the mix on half. I'm letting a little bit of the dry signal bleed in, but nothing crazy. Really basic ping pong delay, 8th note, a little bit of saturation here. And then I have this soaked send B, and you can see the whistles being sent all the way to send B. That's vintage verb, long decay, dirty plate.
I'm falling off track for you, and it's tearing my
Intro lead going on right here, called Orange Lead. I can play it right here for you guys. Oh yeah, I mean, it's the simplest of patches. It's just a, whatever the fuck that is. That's like it's kind of like a saw wave, I guess. And then it just has the filter. So basically filter that out with the built-in Serum filter. And that's also being sent to the soaked verb.
I'm falling off track for you, and it's tearing my heart too.
I mean, as a template, really change them. So I do have my sends in my chains saved as presets And where I store those is in my Ableton user library. If I go over here to presets on the left side of the screen and I open that up, you can see I save all of my chains within the dwilly presets folder. And that's something that I made within Ableton's user library. And to find that, you just go to music and Ableton user library. And what I did was inside presets, I made a new folder and labeled that dwilly presets. And the reason for that is because this browsing hierarchy over here is so easy to navigate. And so I basically just made the folder, and now I save all my chains in here. And then let's see, let's go over the verse. All right. So we have different layers in the verse. There's this main pad going on here, and you can see leading up to the hook, I just have I have the auto filter opening up.
But I'm so fucking AD.
Cool. All right. So first one, Serum. Patch is called You and I. I'm not going to unfreeze it because I don't want my computer to explode. This is one more instance of sampler. And this is actually Amelia. Shout out to Amelia. She's the singer on this track. But what I did is I got her singing like a bunch of just one-shot samples. And I picked out one of these samples that she was humming, and I resampled that, threw it in the sampler. And that's being sent to this group, this pad group with the filter. And another sampler. From another song that I produced, I have a kind of like organic choir-y hum sample going on. All right, for the chorus, we have like this stabby synth going on. I'm gonna play it, solo it. And this is FMA? Oh no, this is, there's two things going on here. All right, we got staccato and we have weird. The staccato, this is another sampler instance. Yeah, you guys, I'm just using so much sampler. I thought this was FM8, but I guess not. And I'm guessing this is the same deal. It's just like a little whoo. It's a little hum. And in the filter, I have the release all the way down pretty much and the decay all the way down. So you're just hearing that front end attack. You're not hearing the sustain. And as for this layer down here, I have the wildcard pad going on. A little bit of movement in this warp knob here, triggered by the envelope too. And that envelope is also triggering a really quick low pass sweep from the top. Nothing too complicated. I don't have any effects going on inside Serum. I have Serum effects, home. Here's AB. Yeah, it's not doing much. Here's a cool thing. So if you guys can hear that really grainy sound on top, and this is a trick I haven't actually told anybody about yet, but what I have is volume shaper, and you can do this with any shaper box or LFO tool, whatever you guys use. You can do this with anything. If you set the sync speed of this plugin to hertz, where it's basically unsynced, and you turn it up all the way to where it's going 5.24 kilohertz, and that's really fast. The cycles of this going so fast give it that reduxy effect, and you can pretty much play around with the shape. But here's an AB. Here's without it. And I'm going to turn on the plugin now. So you can kind of like instantly give it that bit reducer, like bit crush effect. And you can play around with the shape. So whatever you're modifying inside this shape is going to modify the sound of the bit crusher. And then I kind of just tamed off that high end with this shelf right here.
Hey, baby, what I'm supposed to say, baby? Say, baby, if I go in my hey, baby, don't blame me. Blame my fucking hey, baby. Hey, baby.
So I have this quick little like effects thing rising up.
Fucking hey, baby. Fucking
One on the left, one on the right. This was something I bounced out a while ago. This is actually in one of my splice packs. It's called the Dribble Death Synth. It's somewhere, I think it's in like Donuts and Dinosaurs Volume 1 or something like that. And then layered in with this stabby synth is this little spoons loop. This is cool, guys. Check this out. So what I did with this is I grabbed some spoons from the kitchen. I just kind of like clinked them together with the tempo. And I have some Valhalla plate, Valhalla room going on, giving it a little bit of ambience. So without that, it's pretty dry.
hey, baby. Hey, baby, what I'm supposed to say, baby?
I didn't want it to stick out that much. Like I didn't want it to sound like it was stepping on the synth. I want it to sound like it was layered in with the synth. So that's why I threw it to the back of the mix with these plate and room plugins. I think that's pretty much the only thing that's going on except the vocals in this section. And if you guys want any tips with the vocals, just let me know and I can go over that. I don't have the actual original vocal processing in this section. In this session, I only have a bounce of the acapella. All right, let me see. Let me try to get to some of these questions. Aren't you worried about phasing by having a duplicate left? Yes, I am worried about that. And for that reason, what I typically do, let's see, where did I just see that? Was it the spoons? So yeah, Lost Boy was asking me if I'm ever worried about phasing issues with duplicating a track and then throwing one to the left, throwing one to the right. Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to avoid that is simply by making sure that your samples are different in some way. And in this case, as you can see, I duplicated this, so they are the exact same. So I will get phasing issues unless I create an imperfection. And the easiest way to create an imperfection in the stereo field is by either pitching it up or creating a delay compensation. So in Ableton, I don't know if you guys are working in Ableton, but the easiest way to do this is if you click here, bottom right of the panel of the arrangement panel in Ableton, you can toggle this bottom button with a D on it. I'm pretty sure it stands for delay, track delay. And so what I did is I cranked this up to 10 milliseconds, meaning that there is a 10 millisecond delay on this channel. So that's what's gonna create that stereo effect, because it's actually happening a little bit after the duplicate sample that's going on here on the right. So the left channel is going to be a little bit behind it. So that's how I avoided the phase issue right there. And I'm pretty sure Logic has a way of doing that. You got to look it up. Let's see, let's go over this drop. Good old copy and paste with the lead going an octave up. Classic. Lucky Python music. It depends on the mic and how well you recorded the vocals, but in the scenario that we recorded in the studio, everything sounded so good. I really didn't have to do much. The main processing that I'm applying to vocals is additive EQ, heavy compression, and a de-esser, sometimes a limiter. There's not much I'm doing. If it is in the case of an EQ, I pretty much use the classic approaches of combing through any kind of parametric EQ. I like to use FabFilter Pro Q2 and find the nasty frequencies. But the rule of thumb is if there isn't nasty frequencies and you're using a good mic and you're recording it well, I would say most of the time you should not mess with it, because often people tend to mess with the EQ and make it worse. If you don't have access to a really good mic or a good recording environment where the room is dry, you will have to somewhat like suppress some of those frequencies. There's nothing in the low end under 200 hertz, sometimes even 250, 300 that you're going to need for a song. And that's dependent on the style of music as well. I just know for this, everything is very crushed in the highs and the mids. How do you make that vocal solid that's in Want You Back remix in Move On remix? How do you make that vocal solid? Oh, what is that? Oh, yo. That's a kazoo. Here, stay there. So, I'm gonna use this. Kazoo. Not going anywhere. We in quarantine, fam. Yo, that's what's up for sure. Yeah, anyway, Andres Sandra asked me about a sound I used in something else. It was a kazoo. I found this at a party. It was like they were passing it out for free. Took it home. It sounds great on the mic. We already went over the drop lead. The only thing that's in sync with this drop lead is a bass patch. And I actually did recycle this sound from a song I did. I think, was it before? I can't remember which came out first. I can't remember if it was this or Candy, but this is the Candy stab bass. And it's Serum. I'm going to just play it really quick. And we got this. So we got an 808. We got an 808, and that's kind of trading off with this stab bass. So copied the MIDI notes down here. The bass is pedaling on the 4 chord. There is no movement in the stab bass. What's going on in the patch? Let's see the preset. Falling Apple stab F and bass. I'm pretty sure this is like, where I got it. Maybe it's like a, I don't know if I made it. I think I did make this. No, did I? No, maybe not. I don't know. Really basic analog sine wave. There's some stuff going on in the effects tab of Serum. But pretty much, and I do have the sub oscillator turned on with this. I'm going to turn off the processing so you guys can hear what this sounds like without any of these plugins. Are you guys ready? 3, 2, 1. Sounds like shit. So yeah, all that low end is pretty much coming from these plugins here. Boosting the mids, boosting the highs. I have that like little click. That little click that's layered in with this is this. Wait, no. Where is it? Is it this? Yeah, this. So I have the instrument rack queued up, and all these layers within this rack are contributing to the whole patch Candy stab bass. There's like a low sub layer going on under here. It's not really that audible. It's just giving a little bit of the bottom end. The top end that you're hearing is coming from this instance of Serum. I have the noise oscillator turned on, and I'm using ARP circuit, and I have envelope 2 mapped to the level. So I'm cutting out any sustain, any kind of release. It's just a very quick, sharp attack. And the reason why I'm using an instrument rack is because all the MIDI notes are going to be triggering every single layer in here. So I want to make sure everything is synced up and playing the same thing. What if you don't know how to practice any Rex? I want to find that information into practice. You don't know what to practice any Rex. Constantly practicing will get you there. Flashcards ready. I think I asked that right. Yeah, I would say the best way to practice these like techniques is just kind of dive into it yourself. I learned a lot of this stuff on YouTube, and I learned a lot of that stuff on my own. But I think the main problem solver is identifying the sound that you want to make, being able to pull that out in a song, and try to like isolate each layer in that sound. Or maybe it's not a matter of layers, maybe it's just one sound. But there's different ways of achieving sounds. Like for instance, this kazoo. I mean, I don't see anybody else out there using kazoos. I mean, I'm sure they're doing it, but if you can find any niche, unique instrument or source of sound or audio that you can get in a song, you know, it's going to make your songs unique, and it's going to allow you to stand out as a producer and an artist. All right, what else is going on? What else do you guys want to hear? What else do you guys want to know? Yo, what's up? Xander. What up, dude? Oh yeah. Let's go over the drop hats. I feel like I haven't talked about the cymbals at all. This is actually a combination of, where is the cymbals? Wait, what? Oh. So I chose to use an acoustic loop. I most likely got this from Splice, RP Sky Hats 91 BPM. I have that warped to the tempo. And the same technique I used with the spoons to stereoize. I have the right channel with a 10-second track delay. And I'm cutting in and out of this audio right here, so there is space. And I think that's what you're talking about. That's how you're hearing the space. And that, like, as far as the drum pattern, that accent on the one, like, is making it groove so much harder, as opposed to if I were just to arpeggiate a regular, like, 808 hat. Like, the velocity on the hats is driving the song. And you can also, like, achieve this by just typing in the velocity. Like, I would just trigger that first note, full 127, then the following notes down to, like, 60 or whatever. Perks, yeah, the perks. Extra perks. March. Oh, yeah. All right, so. So there's some, like, fills going on every couple bars. I found this, like, marching snare thing, roll, and I kind of cut it up, and I took out the sustain. So everything is very sharp and, like, punchy. Then there's this other thing down here. What is this? Cool, yeah. Yo, honestly, I just found some random shit in my sample folder and dragged it in, and then just made sure they were all short. And then, you know, I'm filtering out all the lows. Pretty much every sample, every, like, audio in this song, if it doesn't have to do with bass, I'm high passing it. Saturation on top for a little crunch. And I have some other perks going on. I'm just going to solo all the perks. Let's do this. Or, you know, I'll solo the drums. Fuck it. Okay. I forgot about this guy. So this was a serum patch. And it was like this, like, LFO rotating, like, super heavy dubstep patch that I found, and I ended up just printing it and bouncing out the like the tops of each cycle, and then I just printed them to audio, threw them in there. It's just like another little layer that adds to the perks. Yeah, Quinn Music Yeet. I got another Splice pack coming out soon. It's called The Plug, and this is all just like urban rap shit. It's like gonna be dope. I'll play you some of the stuff, give you a little sneak peek. trap shit. A lot of cool drums in here that I processed and made. A lot of good loops. It's like one of my favorites. So that's going to be coming out like within the next month or two, I'd say. But yeah, like pretty much all these are just like loops ready to go. Yeah, so be on the lookout for that splice pack. It's called The Plug. I'll let you guys know when I'm dropping it. Any tips for nailing that drunk, staggering feel in production? Krill's melody was a dope example of that. I'll go over that in a second. What's your processing for making melody loops like you have in your packs? So what I use, let me see if I can just like grab this thing. So yeah, we have the Novation Summit over there, and we have the Korg Mini Log on the bottom, and we have the Korg Micro, what's it called? Oh yeah, Micro Korg on top, the white one. And these are my go-tos these days for my loops. I have the piano right here. I mean, yeah, like pretty much all the loops come from synth or a lot of like sampling. So like I'll go in and like record my voice, and sometimes that'll be part of the loop. Let's see. Bruh. Check. Oh yeah. Nice short little banger. 3 minutes. The outro is the same intro pads with obviously like a variation of the chords. How would you describe this song in 3 words? Wet dolphin sex. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna hop off. I'm glad I got to show you guys some of this shit. Anyway, peace.